So these storybooks are the Grimm's fairy tales, but they're kind of a play on the normal fairy tales. They're just more scary and creepy. So I'm going to read a few of these to you. Look at them. Grimm's Complete Fairy Tales. Now this is the Barnes and Noble version as well. And I don't know, I just feel like there's something so special about Grimm's fairy tale books, because obviously I love Disney, I love fairy tales, but these are scary. These are the scary type of books. So I'm excited to read these to you. And yeah, normal fairy tales, are based on the Grimm's story, like the retellings, and these are scary and vicious and nasty. And I don't know, I like that. I like a bit of gore and scariness amongst the cuteness. So I'm going to read some to you and I hope you like it. I'm going to be trying to be quiet as possible, but also, yeah. Exactly. They're not grim for no reason. Are you all sitting comfortably? You better be. Okay, look at this. The front cover is just like this. Okay, yes, get your earbuds because I'm going to read it in a very relaxed voice and very quietly. So, this is it, guys. Everyone get into bed and get cozy. So, these are the Grimm's Complete Fairy Tales, and honestly, there are so many pages. I think this is probably thank you. I think probably this is one of the thickest books that I've got. I think, yeah, it definitely is. So let's read. I'm gonna start with the first fairy tale first, of course. This isn't ASMR, this is just me talking gently because I don't want to shout. Okay, so the first story is called The Frog King. Now, I can read, but also, I don't know, I just feel like my reading isn't that great, so when I read out loud. In old times, when wishing still helped one, there lived a king whose daughters were beautiful, but the youngest was so beautiful that the sun itself, which had seen so much, astonished whenever it shone in her face. Close by the king's castle lay a great dark forest, and under an old lime tree in the forest as well. And when the day was very warm, the king's child went into the forest and sat down by the side of this cool fountain. And when she was dull, she took a golden ball and threw it high and caught it. This ball was her favourite plaything. Now it so happened that on one occasion the princess's golden ball did not fall into the little hand which she was holding it up for, but onto the ground, and beyond it rolled straight into the water. The king's daughter followed it with her eyes, but it vanished, and the well was deep, so deep that the bottom could not be seen. On this she began to cry, and cry louder and louder. She could not be comforted, and as she thus lamented, someone said to her, "What ails thee, king's daughter?" Which means, "What's the matter with you, darling? Why are you crying? Why are you crying?" She looked around the side of the fence, and a voice came and saw a frog stretch forth its thick, ugly head from the water. "Ah, old water splasher, is that thou?" she said. "I am weeping for my golden ball which has fallen into the well." "Be quiet. Focus. Be quiet and do not weep." So the frog is very angry and telling her to shut up and don't weep. He's not having it. He's like, "Listen, princess, girly girl, if you cry one more time, I'm going to hit you with my froggy hand and kill you." "Anyway, be quiet and do not weep," answered the frog. "I can help thee, but what will you give me if I bring thy plaything up again?" "Whatever that you would want, my dear frog." this is The Princess and the Frog, but basically more scary. It's gonna get creepy. Whatever that will have, dear frog, my clothes, my pearls and my jewels, even my golden crown which I'm wearing. Ooh, what's gonna happen? The frog answered, I do not care for thy clothes, thy pearls, thy jewels, or thy golden crown. But if thou would love me and let me be thy companion, and play fellow and sit by thee at thy table, and eat off the golden plate, and drink out of the golden cup, and sleep in the little bed with you, I promise I'll bring your ball up again. Oh my gosh, guys, so she's gonna make a deal with the frog. She's gonna make a deal with the frog, and for a plastic ball that he can like be in her lap. Like, are they gonna have frog sex? I mean, that's kind of vile. Anyway, what a freaky ass frog. You're right. She's basically making a deal with the devil. Oh yes, she said, I promise thou all wishes, and if thou wilt bring me back my ball again. She, however, thought, how silly does this frog talk? He lives in the water with other frogs and croaks. He cannot be a companion with a human being. But the frog, when he had received the promise, put his head into the water, sank down and came with the ball in his mouth and threw it on the grass. The king's daughter was delighted. Oh, the king's daughter was delighted to see her plaything once more and picked it up and ran away with it. Wait, said the frog, take me with thee. I can't. But what did avail him to scream and croak after her as loudly as I could? She did not listen. She ran away regardless. The plaything is the ball that she lost, basically. And then she made a deal with him that he would basically be her husband. Yeah, it's kind of wild. Anyway, so now he's following after her, and he's kind of like, where the frick frack is this promise? So she's promised to marry a frog, basically. Anyway, she did not listen, and she went home. The next day, when she had seated herself at the table with the king and all the courtiers, and was eating from a little gold plate, something came creeping, splish, splash, up the marble staircase. And when it had got to the top, it knocked at the door and cried, Princess, youngest princess, open the door for thee. She ran to see who the frick-frack it was outside, and when she opened the door, it was the frog. She slammed the door in great haste and sat with her dinner again, and she was kind of frightened because there was a frog outside of her flipping door. The king saw plainly that her heart was beating and said, My child, what art thou afraid of? And she said, There's a giant, disgusting frog outside. What does the frog want with thee? Dear father, yesterday I was in the forest sitting by the well playing with my golden ball, and I cried, and I made a promise with the frog. He wants to come in with me. Anyway, the frog was outside the door, and he's fuming and he's crying and he's saying, Princess, youngest princess, open the door for me. Does thou not know what you said to me yesterday by the cool waters of the fountain? Princess, youngest princess, open the door. He then said the king, that which art has promised, go perform, go let him in. So the bloody king said, let the flipping frog in. Is her dad okay? Anyway, she went and opened the door, and the frog hopped in and followed step by step and cried, Lift me up beside thee. She delayed until the last king commanded her to do it. When the frog was once on the chair, he wanted to be on the table and said, Now push the golden plate nearer to me so we can eat together. She did this, but it was easy to see that she did not do it willingly. The frog enjoyed what he ate, but almost every mouthful she took choked her. So when she was eating, she was choking, but when the frog was eating, he was fine. What? The frog said, I have eaten and I am satisfied. I am tired. Carry me to thy little room and make me a silken bed ready, and we can both lie down and go to sleep. The king's daughter began to cry. She was afraid of the cold frog sleeping in her bed. She didn't want to touch him. Guys, this is wild. She took the frog with her 2 fingers, carried him upstairs, and put him into the corner. But when she was in bed, he crept to her and said, I am tired. I want to sleep as well. Lift me up, or I'll tell thy father. Okay, so I guess the dad is like completely into this, but whatever. She was terribly angry. Oh, guys. Listen. Guys, it gets wild. So listen. She was terribly angry at the frog. She took him up and threw him. She threw him with all her might against the wall. Now thou be quiet, you odious frog. But when he fell down, he was no longer a frog, but a king's son with beautiful eyes. He, by her father's will, was now her dear companion and husband. I mean, she's literally a child. He then now told her he had been bewitched by a wicked witch, and no one could have delivered him from his well but herself. They must go together for her kingdom, and when they sleep the next morning, the sun awoke them. This is nearly finished, so I don't know where this is going. What is going on? So the carriage came driving up with 8 horses which had white ostrich feathers on their head. They were harnessed with golden chains, and behind stood a young king's servant, Henry. Henry had been unhappy with his master. Henry was unhappy when his master was changed into a frog. He had caused the 3 iron bands to be laid around his heart, lest should burst with grief and sadness. The carriage was to conduct the young king to his kingdom. Faithfully, Henry helped them both and placed behind him. He was full of joy because of his deliverance. And when they had driven a part of the way to the king's son heard a cracking behind them, as something had broken. So he turned around and cried, Henry, the carriage is breaking. No, master, it's not the carriage, it's the band from my heart, which was put there when you were a frog and imprisoned. I mean, this isn't very scary. Again, while they were on their way, something cracked. Each time the son thought the carriage was breaking, but it was only the band which was spiraling from the heart because his master was free and happy. Okay, well, I'm not happy with this story because I thought there was going to be some death, but whatever.